What if I told you there are 3 texts that can make someone obsessed with you? Not just interested, not just curious, but addicted. And the scary part? You've probably already received one of these without even knowing it. Today, I'm revealing exactly what these texts are, why they work on a psychological level, and the dark reason you should never use them unless you're truly ready for what comes next. Stick around, because this will change how you text forever. Let's start with the first one. Text number 1. The vague but intriguing message that makes them overthink you. Example: I had the weirdest dream about you last night, but I shouldn't say more. This is the kind of message that sits in someone's brain like a splinter. It's vague. It's suggestive. It tells just enough to get their imagination spinning, but not enough to satisfy them. Why does this work? Because the human brain is wired to hate uncertainty. When we don't have closure, our mind starts filling in the blanks. It's like giving someone a puzzle with one crucial piece missing, and then walking away. That one message? It can trigger a curiosity addiction. They'll replay it in their head. They'll wonder what the dream was. Was it romantic? Embarrassing? Jealous? What do you mean by I shouldn't say more? And here's the kicker. They'll keep thinking about you, just to solve that internal itch. This isn't just casual texting. It's psychological warfare, in the most seductive way. Now let's break down why this works on a deeper psychological level. Warrants, Zeigarnik effect, people remember. Incomplete tasks or information better than completed ones. That unfinished dream sentence leaves a gap in their mind, and that gap becomes obsession. 2. Projection mechanism. Since you didn't give details, they fill in the blanks with what they secretly hope or fear you're thinking. Their own emotions get tied into it. 3. Tension creation. Texts like this build emotional suspense, like cliffhangers in a show. And people can't stand emotional cliffhangers. But now here's where it gets dangerous. The danger zone. This type of message is only effective when used strategically. If you drop a line like this and don't follow up, it backfires hard. Why? Because curiosity without payoff turns into frustration. And frustration leads to resentment. You're not just planting a seed, you're lighting a fuse. And if you ghost after sending it, boom, you become the one who played games. Here's the strategic play. 1. Wait for their curiosity to build. Let them respond first. 2. When they ask what the dream was, tease a little more. Maybe say, it was intense, but kinda inappropriate to say over text. 3. Let them pull the info out of you. Don't give it all at once. You're giving them a taste, and making them ask for the full story. And guess what? Every time they think about that message, they think about you. This is how people become mentally hooked. Now let's flip the lens. When should you not use this text? There are moments when playing mysterious isn't smart. It's manipulative. Don't use this if you're trying to get attention out of revenge. You're dealing with someone who already has anxious attachment tendencies. You're just bored and toying with someone's emotions. Because when you send this kind of message, you're inviting them into your head and making space in their mind for you. But if they're emotionally vulnerable or confused about your intentions, this can spiral into unnecessary emotional chaos. Bottom line, use this text when you're ready to engage with curiosity, not just cause it. And if you want them thinking about you at 3 a.m., wondering what you meant, this is your go-to. But don't get comfortable, because the next one, it's even stronger. It's called the emotional spike text, and it's not just curiosity, it's full-blown feeling. Text number 2, the message that sends their emotions on a roller coaster. Example: I was about to delete your number. Then I remembered that one thing you said. Now I can't. Let's pause. Read that again. Because that's not just a message. That's a weapon. It hits 2 powerful emotions at once. Fear of loss and emotional nostalgia. You're telling them, I was ready to let you go, but then something meaningful stopped me. Suddenly they go from being forgotten to being unforgettable. And that spike in emotion? It's what locks them in. Why does this work so effectively? Let's break it down psychologically. 1. Fear of loss. Humans are loss-averse. We feel the pain of losing something twice as strongly as the joy of gaining it. So when you say, I was about to delete your number, You're dangling the idea that they were one click away from being nothing to you. That stings. Even if they're pretending not to care, trust me, they do. It creates a mini panic. Wait, did they actually almost delete me? Why? What did I do? Am I replaceable? The mind spirals. That's the emotional spike. 2. Emotional anchoring nostalgia. Then, right when their ego takes that hit, you pull them back in with something personal. That one thing you said, now their brain flips. What did I say? What moment are they remembering? Was it sweet? Deep? Was I vulnerable? You just anchored the pain of loss to a positive emotional memory. You've created emotional whiplash, and that contrast makes it stick even harder. 3. Ambiguity is powerful. You never say what they said. That's intentional. Now they're thinking about all the things they ever told you, trying to guess, replaying conversations, digging through the past for clues. And while they're doing that, they're emotionally invested, whether they admit it or not. Here's the blueprint behind the emotional spike text. Start with a potential goodbye. I was about to delete your number. Add a twist of personal sentiment. Then I remembered something you said. Leave the details out. Let them chase the meaning. This combo hits like a textual adrenaline shot. It forces their heart to wake up. But here's the warning label. This text is not for the emotionally unstable. Let me repeat that. If the person you're texting is already in a fragile mental or emotional state, this kind of message can trigger serious anxiety or spiral them into obsessive thinking. You have to know who you're sending this to, because once you hit send, it's out there, and people will respond with emotion. That emotion might be passion, or anger, or confusion, or desperation. If you're not ready for the wave that follows, you'll drown in it. The danger zone of the emotional spike text. 1. They call your bluff and say, go ahead, delete it. 2. They get hurt and shut down emotionally instead of engaging. 3. They become addicted, and you feel overwhelmed by their attention. This is not a text to use for fun. It's not a game. It's an emotional switch, and once flipped, it's hard to unflip. How to use it right? Only send it when you mean it. Use it when you've had real connection before, not just flirty texts. Be prepared for them to want answers and maybe feelings. If you do follow up and they ask, what did I say? Don't be coy forever. Give them enough of a real answer to deepen the connection. You said something about how people leave when things get hard, and I realized I didn't want to be one of them. You don't need a full novel, just something real, something human. You already stirred their emotion, now give it meaning. So when does this work best? When someone's pulling away and you want to pull them back. When you want to remind them that there was a spark, and it still matters. When you need to know if they're emotionally invested or just playing along. Because here's the truth. If this message doesn't get a response, they were never emotionally invested in the first place. And that's your sign to stop chasing. But when it works, they'll come back with a message like, wait, what did I say? You remembered that? Now I'm thinking about you all over again. And that's exactly what the emotional spike text is designed to do. Make them feel something they weren't expecting to feel. Make them question their own emotional walls. And most importantly, make them think of you with feeling, not just memory. In the right hands, this text is powerful. But the next one? It doesn't just stir feelings. It shifts the entire dynamic. It flips the script. Let's talk about the power shift text. The one that makes them chase you. Let me repeat that. If the person you're texting is already in a fragile mental or emotional state, this kind of message can trigger serious anxiety or spiral them into obsessive thinking. You have to know who you're sending this to, because once you hit send, it's out there, and people will respond with emotion. That emotion might be passion, or anger, or confusion, or desperation. If you're not ready for the wave that follows, you'll drown in it. The danger zone of the emotional spike text. 1. They call your bluff and say, go ahead, delete it. 2. They get hurt and shut down emotionally instead of engaging. 3. They become addicted, and you feel overwhelmed by their attention. This is not a text to use for fun. It's not a game. It's an emotional switch, and once flipped, it's hard to unflip. How to use it right? Only send it when you mean it. Use it when you've had real connection before, not just flirty texts. Be prepared for them to want answers and maybe feelings. If you do follow up and they ask, "What did I say?" don't be coy forever. Give them enough of a real answer to deepen the connection. You said something about how people leave when things get hard, and I realized I didn't want to be one of them. You don't need a full novel, just something real, something human. You already stirred their emotion, now give it meaning. So when does this work best? When someone's pulling away and you want to pull them back. When you want to remind them that there was a spark, and it still matters. When you need to know if they're emotionally invested or just playing along. Because here's the truth. If this message doesn't get a response, they were never emotionally invested in the first place. And that's your sign to stop chasing. But when it works, they'll come back with a message like, "Wait, what did I say? You remembered that? Now I'm thinking about you all over again." And that's exactly what the emotional spike text is designed to do. Make them feel something they weren't expecting to feel. Make them question their own emotional walls. And most importantly, make them think of you with feeling, not just memory. In the right hands, this text is powerful. But the next one? It doesn't just stir feelings. It shifts the entire dynamic. It flips the script. Let's talk about the power shift text. The one that makes them chase you. Text number 3. The message that makes them chase you instead. Example. "I'll be honest, I thought you were different. Maybe I was wrong." Then go silent. This is the most dangerous text of all. Not because it's mean, not because it's manipulative, but because it challenges the one thing people guard with their life, their ego. This is the power shift text. It flips the dynamic, puts them on the defensive, makes them question whether they just lost someone who actually saw something in them. Why does it work? Because people are wired to chase validation, especially after they've been idealized. And your message? It subtly says, "I gave you credit. I saw potential, and now I'm starting to rethink it." That hits deeper than silence, deeper than anger, deeper than any "you hurt me" message ever could. Let's break it down. 1. You set the frame. By saying, "I thought you were different," you're telling them, you stood out. You had something special. I don't say that to just anyone. But then comes the shift. "Maybe I was wrong." You've pulled the rug out from under them. Without yelling, without chasing, without begging, you created a value imbalance, and now they're on the lower end of it. 2. It triggers the ego panic response. This isn't just disappointment, it's disapproval. You're not hurt. You're not angry. You're disappointed. And that's way worse. Because now they're thinking, "Wait, what did I do wrong? How did I mess this up? Are they pulling away from me?" When someone feels they're losing status in your eyes, they panic. It creates a fear of rejection that's hardwired in all of us. 3. The power is in the silence. Here's the secret ingredient. You don't say more. You don't explain. You don't double text. You drop the message. And you go silent. That silence? It's deafening. Because now they're alone with their thoughts. And their ego is spiraling. They'll want to fix it. They'll want to prove you wrong. They'll want to get back into your good graces. That's the power shift. Here's what typically happens next. Scenario 1. They chase. They reach out. They explain. They apologize. They ask, "Wait, what did I do?" You force them to confront their own behavior. And now they're doing the work to keep your attention. Scenario 2. They stay silent. And here's the truth. This will happen sometimes. They might stay quiet. They might not respond at all. And if they don't, that's not a loss. It's a revelation. They were never planning to value you in the first place. You just pulled the mask off faster. The power shift text doesn't just reverse the dynamic. It exposes the truth. Now let's talk danger zone. Because this one, it's a tightrope walk. Here's when it backfires. 1. If you don't mean it. If you're using it as a bluff and you still keep chasing them afterward, you've lost all credibility. They'll see it as emotional blackmail. 2. If you use it too soon, don't send this 3 days into talking. It only works if there's been real build-up, shared energy, signals, maybe even real feelings exchanged. 3. If you break silence too early, sending this, then texting again 2 hours later, you just handed all the power back. How to use the power shift text properly. Only send it when you're truly ready to walk away if needed. Make sure the emotional groundwork has been laid. Once you send it, go dark. Wait for them to respond first. If they do respond, don't over-explain. Let them work for your clarity. Example: you just started acting like everyone else. I thought you weren't that type. Short, impactful. Let them ask more. If they show growth, engage. If they get defensive, that's your sign. They're not ready for real connection. Real talk. Why this text is so addictive. People don't become obsessed with attention. They become obsessed with meaningful disapproval. When someone they respect starts pulling away, they feel it. This message triggers the internal question: how did I go from being special to being a disappointment? They will try to answer that question with action, and often that action is chasing. But here's the key. Don't use this text unless you're emotionally solid enough to hold your ground, because if they call your bluff and you come crawling back, you lose all leverage, and they'll never take your words seriously again. Final reminder: this text isn't about punishing someone. It's about revealing whether they value you enough to step up. Used right? It's a reset button. Used wrong? It's a game you'll lose. But when it hits, you stop chasing. They start pursuing, and the balance shifts in your favor. So now you've seen the power of mystery, emotion, and ego. But what if I told you there are people you should never use these texts on? Because in some cases, it's not seductive. It's toxic. When to never use these texts, the ethical line. Warning: these texts are psychological nitroglycerin. You now know how to use the mystery text, the emotional spike, and the power shift to trigger curiosity, emotion, and desire. But here's what most people won't tell you. These texts are not for everyone. And in the wrong hands, or aimed at the wrong person, they can create emotional damage you didn't sign up for. That's why this part matters more than any other. If you don't understand the ethical line, you're not being clever. You're being cruel. So let's talk about the situations, personalities, and intentions where these texts should never be used. Because some fires aren't meant to be lit. 1. Never use these texts on an ex who hurt you. Let's say your ex broke your heart. They lied, ghosted, played games, left you questioning your worth. Now you're tempted to send the mystery text or emotional spike, just to get something out of them. A reaction, a hint of regret, maybe even to prove they still care. Don't do it. Why? Because all you're doing is feeding their ego while reopening your wounds. They know they hurt you. They know you still feel something. Or you wouldn't be texting them at all. So when you send one of these power-charged messages, they get two things. A reminder that they still have control over your emotions. An opportunity to play with that power, again. And if they're the kind of person who thrives on control, you've just given them the keys back to your emotional space. These texts might make them chase for a moment, but you'll be chasing closure again by next week. 2. Never use these texts on someone who's already in a relationship. Read that again. If someone is taken, they are not available. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not physically. Even if they flirt. Even if they say things like, "We're having issues," or "It's complicated." Sending a power shift text or mystery hook in this situation makes you the emotional side dish. They may respond. They may flirt back. They may even confess attraction. But where does it go? Usually nowhere. Because these texts are designed to pull emotion. And if that emotion doesn't lead to an actual relationship, it just creates chaos. And let's be brutally honest here. If you're using emotional tactics to pull someone out of a relationship, you'll always question whether someone else can do the same to you later. It's a cycle of distrust before it even begins. If someone truly wants you, they'll leave their situation cleanly, and you won't need these texts to pull them in. 3. Never use these texts on a narcissist. This one's important. A narcissist will eat these texts for breakfast and leave you emotionally wrecked. Here's why. The mystery text fuels their fantasy that you're obsessed. The emotional spike validates their belief that they have power over your feelings. The power shift text? They'll flip it on you so fast, you'll question your own confidence. They don't process these texts the way emotionally secure people do. To a narcissist, your vulnerability is an invitation to manipulate. They might chase for a moment, just to win, then ghost you harder than before. They see your emotion as weakness, not intimacy. So if your gut already tells you someone plays hot and cold, uses charm as a weapon, or never takes accountability, Back away, because these texts don't disarm narcissists. They energize them. 4. Never use these texts. If you're not emotionally ready for their response, here's the honest truth nobody likes to say. These texts work. They can pull someone back. They can make someone chase. They can reawaken desire that was fading. But you have to ask yourself a hard question. Am I actually ready for what happens if they respond? With full emotion? Because when someone gets emotionally activated, they might pour out feelings you weren't ready to hear. They might want to rekindle something you were trying to get over. They might say, "Let's talk," and you realize you didn't mean it. You just wanted attention. This isn't about playing games. This is about knowing your own emotional boundaries. If you're lonely, bored, or still healing, using these texts might temporarily boost your ego, but they can cause long-term confusion. Don't break someone else just to feel momentarily whole. 5. Never use these texts if you wouldn't want it done to you. The golden rule? If you wouldn't want someone to toy with your curiosity, stir up your emotions for attention, make you feel like you're losing them just to regain power, then don't do it to them. Because these texts aren't inherently toxic, but your intentions can be. Used with honesty and emotional maturity, they can unlock beautiful vulnerability. But used to provoke, control, or test someone, they're just emotional landmines. The truth behind the text always leaks out eventually. Ask yourself before you send. Am I doing this to open up connection or control it? Am I ready for no response and okay with that? Would I be hurt if someone sent this to me with the same intent? Do I know who I'm sending this to? And what emotional space they're in? If you can't answer all of those with clarity, wait. Don't text from loneliness. Don't text from revenge. And definitely don't text for validation. Bottom line, these texts are powerful, but they're not toys. They stir emotion. They shift dynamics. They awaken curiosity, fear, desire, and ego. But they also hold the potential to damage someone's self-worth or your own if you're not mindful. Used consciously, they can build emotional depth. Used carelessly, they can become weapons. So the rule is simple. If you wouldn't want it done to you, don't do it. You don't need to manipulate to attract someone worthy. You just need to understand human psychology and move from integrity, not insecurity. And when you do, these texts don't just trigger obsession, they trigger authentic connection. Next, I'll show you exactly what happens when you use them. Right, with real-life examples that prove it's not about control, it's about clarity. What happens when you use them right? The right way to use these texts without manipulation. By now you've seen how powerful these 3 texts can be. The mystery text pulls them in with curiosity. The emotional spike makes them feel something deep and sudden. The power shift flips the dynamic and puts you in control. But here's the truth. No viral video will tell you. These texts don't work long-term unless you use them with intention, not manipulation. They're like matches. They can warm someone or burn the whole thing down. So let's talk about what happens when you use them the right way and how to turn that spark into something real. First, know your goal. Before you hit send on any of these messages, ask yourself, am I trying to attract someone who's good for me? Or just anyone who reacts? Because if your goal is just to feel wanted, you'll get responses. But if your goal is to build a genuine, exciting, connected relationship, you need more than a clever line. The text is just the door. What matters is what happens after they walk through it. How to follow up, the non-gamey way. You use the mystery text. They reply, "Wait, what dream? Tell me." Or the emotional spike. They ask, "What did I say that made you change your mind?" Or the power shift. They say, "Why do you think you were wrong about me? Now what?" Here's what not to do. Go cold and mysterious forever. Keep dodging questions. Try to win by staying aloof. That's how people end up frustrated, not connected. Here's what you should do instead. Match their energy. If they respond with vulnerability, reward it with honesty. If they're cautious, ease in with clarity, not pressure. This is where 90% of people mess up. They think the power is in being unbothered. It's not. The real power is in being clear, calm, and confident without needing a reaction. Make it personal, not scripted. These messages should never feel like copy-paste lines from TikTok. If you want someone to become emotionally invested in you, they need to feel like you're emotionally aware, not emotionally manipulative. So when they ask what your dream was, don't just say it's too wild to explain. Say something like, "It was weird. We were sitting on that rooftop bar you mentioned, and you said something I can't forget." Now the curiosity feels personal, not performative. That difference, that's what creates real chemistry. Know when to walk away. This might sound harsh, but it's powerful. If they don't respond, or if they brush it off, let them go. Not with bitterness, not with another text, just with quiet confidence. Because someone who doesn't respond to a message that stirs emotion or curiosity, that's your answer. They're either emotionally closed off, already tied up emotionally elsewhere, or just not in the same place as you. And trust me, chasing that never ends well. The right person will lean in, the wrong person will fade. Your job is to watch what they do, not try to control it. Real life example. How Lisa used text number 2 to make her crush confess feelings without playing games. Lisa had been casually texting a guy from work for months. They flirted, they joked, they shared playlists, but he never made a move. She was tired of waiting. So instead of confessing feelings directly or pulling away dramatically, she used the emotional spike text. "I was about to delete your number. Then I remembered what you said about how you hate when people disappear. So I didn't." He replied within 10 minutes. "Wait, are you deleting me? Why would you do that?" She didn't rush. She followed up later with, "Just felt like maybe we weren't on the same page. But I was wrong about that, right?" That cracked him open. He admitted he had feelings but didn't think she felt the same. Now they're dating, and neither of them feels like they played a game. She didn't manipulate. She communicated with clarity and used emotion to spark truth, not control. That's the difference between a game and a real connection. When you use these texts right, you find out who's emotionally available. You create depth, not confusion. You spark desire without chasing it. You make someone think of you in a way they haven't before. And most importantly, you attract people who are good for you. Not just reactive, not just available, but aligned. Final rules to make it work. 1. Use emotion, not guilt. Don't make people feel bad for not being ready. Use the text to express emotion, not weaponize it. 2. Be open, not desperate. These texts show interest, not obsession. Keep your tone curious, confident, and calm. 3. Don't repeat the move. Once you've used one of these texts, don't recycle it. Use it once, let it land. See what happens. 4. Let their response be the truth. Whatever they say or don't say, that's your answer. Don't try to change it. What happens next? Sometimes they'll chase, sometimes they'll open up, sometimes they'll surprise you with how much they felt something, and we're just waiting for a green light. And sometimes they won't. And that's not a failure, it's freedom. Because using these texts the right way reveals who's worth your emotional energy and who's not. So don't fear using them. Fear not knowing how someone really feels because you never sent the message that showed them your heart. When you use these texts right, you find out who's emotionally available. You create depth, not confusion. You spark desire without chasing it. You make someone think of you in a way they haven't before. And most importantly, you attract people who are good for you. Not just reactive, not just available, but aligned. Final rules to make it work. 1. Use emotion, not guilt. Don't make people feel bad for not being ready. Use the text to express emotion, not weaponize it. 2. Be open, not desperate. These texts show interest, not obsession. Keep your tone curious, confident, and calm. 3. Don't repeat the move. Once you've used one of these texts, don't recycle it. Use it once, let it land. See what happens. 4. Let their response be the truth. Whatever they say or don't say, that's your answer. Don't try to change it. What happens next? Sometimes they'll chase, sometimes they'll open up, sometimes they'll surprise you with how much they felt something, and we're just waiting for a green light. And sometimes they won't. And that's not a failure, it's freedom. Because using these texts the right way reveals who's worth your emotional energy and who's not. So don't fear using them. Fear not knowing how someone really feels because you never sent The message that showed them your heart. So, which text do you think is the most dangerous? Drop a comment with 1 for the mystery text, the one that makes them overthink you nonstop. 2 for the emotional spike, the one that hits them right in the heart. 3 for the power shift, the one that flips the entire game on its head. And if you dare to see these texts in real life, actual screenshots of how they worked, and how they blew up in someone's face, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on that bell so you never miss a mind-shifting episode. We're just getting started. Next up, how to respond when they use these texts on you, and flip it to your advantage. I'm Cyclones, and this is where texting becomes art, strategy, and power without losing your integrity. You've got the tools now. Use them wisely. See you in the next one.